Look at all those numbers. 12, 24, 12, 24. I don't even know how I'm attacking that many times. Recently on Twitch, I've begun a solo Alear run of the new Fire Emblem Engage, and let's just say things are going a little too well at the moment. How much XP do I get from that? Only 20! I killed an entire dragon! This footage here was taken on Maddening Classic difficulty, and even though you're supposed to escape from this map, I'm actually able to completely rout it. In fact, I'm able to kill the mini-bosses that spawn that you're not meant to beat. Quite handily as well. Then I tried to take on the final boss of top, confident that I was going to be able to beat her, only to discover that she actually gets complete plot immunity. No! No damage, you've got 16 defense! What do you mean, no damage? I think the game's cheating here. So I may have found a build that works well for my challenge run. However, I thought it'd be best to describe how I actually went about achieving this, because I think some people could actually benefit from it. So just to give you an idea of what to expect from this, at the end of chapter 11, I've managed to achieve a respectable 129 avoid and 44 base crit. This on a physical attack of 35 generally means you one-shot whatever you're facing. Alongside a very high speed stat, you're also going to be double hitting things, meaning that you're pretty much guaranteed to end whatever you're facing. The only thing I will say about what I've got here is the fact that I have used DLC items to boost my stat up at the beginning of the game. What they basically do is give you +2 to every stat and 1 additional movement. Now, if you don't have the DLC, please do not worry, these numbers will still be very high without them. So, step 1 in achieving this level of madness is to try to funnel XP to Alear. Now, this isn't quintessential, you don't really have to worry about this too much if you're planning on using a lot of other party members. However, for my challenge run, I ended up doing this anyway, and I ended up getting a few levels ahead even on maddening. As our main character has some fairly strong growth stats, we should get some pretty powerful level ups. On top of this, if you manage to funnel a lot of the kills to Alear, then you're able to actually build up your bond with Marth. Now this is very powerful for 3 reasons, the first of which being you actually get increased stat benefits from equipping that ring with a higher bond level. In addition to that, you also get access to Marth's unique skills. Now we'll be going over the inherited ones later on, but by just having the ring equipped and sometimes engaged, you get access to not only break defenses but also divine speed, both of which provide an extra attack that deals 50% of the normal damage under their circumstances. Finally, if you can get his bond level up to level 10, which I recommend you do via the arena, you get access to Mercurius. This is a unique sword that doubles the XP that the user gets upon getting a kill with it, which is kind of insane. Now, while you're doing these early battles, you want to, when they're finished, adopt as many animals on the field as possible. Specifically, we're looking for dogs. Back at the Somnial, we can use these dogs to generate resources for us, specifically iron, steel, and silver, all of which are needed for step 2. In my opinion, the best weapon you can get early game is the Killing Edge. Sure, it might not be your unique sword, but it gives you a 30% crit chance. That basically means that if that goes off, any normal enemy you're facing will be instantly dead, which is definitely a benefit. You can get a Killing Edge as soon as the Smith unlocks. All you have to do is upgrade an Iron Sword. Now, these will be all shaded out from you until you make them first, but you're looking for the weapon that has 30 crit. Once you have that, I recommend you upgrade it as much as you can. Be sure to check your dogs in case they have any resources to give you. You can always exchange resources if you want to, and I recommend it's worth it even though you're trading at a loss. Now at this point, you won't have the exact emblem that we're going to use later on, however for now, Sigurd's Holy Emblem does a pretty good job. 20 avoid plus an increase in might is definitely worth it. Once the smithy is unlocked, the next mission is Yunarka's mission where you get access to the emblem we really want. So go ahead and quickly finish that mission and come back to the smithy where you can engrave the Emblem of Dawn onto your Killing Edge. This will give you 40 avoid and 20 dodge, which for a little bit of physical attack is worth it. If you've been using Alear a lot in combat, you should now have a lot of banked SP. My recommendations are this: head on to Marth's inherited skills and grab the highest levels of avoid and sword agility. You do want to, if you can, try to get the highest avoid and then fill up what you have to with sword agility. We don't want to be using that for later on in the game just because of that minus 10% crit, but for right now it's a pretty good skill. On my playthrough, I managed to pick up the first level of avoid and the second level of sword agility, giving me 25 overall avoid just from these inherited skills alone. Alongside my weapon, this gives us 65 avoid without actually doing anything. This, in combination with the avoid granted from speed and luck, should give you a fairly good hit chance against enemies. At this point, I saw about 20 to 10%. If you want to take this to the absolute limit, then all you have to do is find a cover tile. Most of them give you 30 avoid, which should be enough to mean that enemies just can't hit you at all. The sole exception there being magic users who ignore the terrain bonus given from cover. So what I recommend you do is possibly consider reclassing your main character out of Divine Dragon and into a Flyer. Flyers generally have increased movement and increased evasion rate, meaning that you'll be able to completely avoid the enemies and for the most part not get hit at all. Naturally, the main concern here is, however, archers and magic users with effectiveness against flying. However, at this point your avoid should be so high that these things can't actually hit you. And so, if you play your cards right, you should end up on chapter 10 with nothing actually wanting to fight you. I'm serious, if you have complete avoid on the enemy to the point where they can't even hit you, they seriously won't even approach you. Now granted, I am only using my main character here, and if there were other people on the map that they could hit, they would approach them. However, your main character will be completely safe, so you can use them to actually fight the main boss while everyone else takes care of the enemies. Naturally, the avoid is the reason why this works so well. However, our high crit rate generally means that we can take down whatever we want. This includes armored enemies for the most part, but if they do have particularly high defense, I generally like to bring an Armorslayer just to take care of them. So having stress tested this build early game, it has done fantastically well and I have no complaints whatsoever. It pretty much demolishes the map with just our character alone, which is fantastic and exactly what I wanted to see. I'm heading into the mid game now on the challenge run, which you can catch me live on Twitch playing. Hopefully there will be a few more changes I can make to this build in order to refine it and just make it a lot more efficient. If there are any major alterations, I'll be sure to make a follow-up video to this one. So just to quickly wrap this up, Engage is a fantastic game that has so many mechanics and so many different ways of playing it, to the point where even if you don't want to go down this route, there are plenty of other ways you can break this game in two. There are plenty of opportunities for making effective builds here, so I advise you to experiment and find something that works for you. I found this on my solo Alear run, which just works, but when you're playing with other characters, there's obviously going to be better builds that you can run with your team composition. So I invite all of you to let me know what's been working for you in the comments below. Me personally, I've had a lot of fun with Louis. He's kind of been the standout for me. I've gotten his defense to a point where nothing harms him. It is fantastic. But I reckon I best leave it off there, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. A big thank you to this month's Patreons, Luke78776 and Yoba.